content over everything.
Atheists who believe that naturalism is the premise of science.
Okay, I know.
And there are many atheists believe the universe hasn't begun in 30.4 billion years.
13.8. Okay, although there is some different. Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is this. But I would never.
So can we
ask
agree?
you,
Okay, then let's get some common ground between us. I agree, right, that I don't think naturalism is the basis of science.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, I think observation and theory testing is how science is done. Right? And can we agree that an argument based on Big Bang cosmology is a bad argument for God? Can we agree with that?
Well, I've never presented that argument.
I'm not saying you did. Can we agree it's a bad argument? Your fellow Muslims that do advance that argument, can we agree that that's a bad argument?
I will say this. I will do it the other way around. I will believe, and evidence for me to believe in the idea of the universe having a beginning is in the Quran.
Okay, but can we agree that science does not support that argument?
It doesn't support it, doesn't oppose it.
Okay, great. Then we're in agreement.
Yeah.
That's good. We can have the discussion. We can have common ground. Because and the Muslims that say that science supports
As long
it,
as I leave him and I believe rock solid, I don't mind.
Okay. The Muslims that say it's supported by modern science, they're wrong.
But on the other hand,
No,
on the other hand,
Can we agree with that?
What's that?
Hang on, one sec. Can we agree that the Muslims that say that science supports that claim, they are wrong?
based on uncertainty.
It depends, isn't it? But there are some scientists.
What does
who
it
make-
depend on then?
Are there not scientists who make that claim?
I would say most cosmologists no longer associate Big Bang with
But
the
what,
Big Bang.
if that Muslim has read a scientist who's made that claim,
Well, of course, you can always find a scientist to support pretty much any claim. The question is, what is the consensus of the community, right? And what is the nature of the evidence? If we have a theorem that's backed up by evidence, and then we get new evidence that overturns it, then we have to change our minds. And what's happened is that has been the case in the scientific community as we change our mind. And then what's happened is you get these Muslims, not just Muslims, Christians.
no disrespect. You know what it is. You know what it is.
They
Phil?
keep quoting this outdated science.
Phil, I've seen the caliber of Muslims you've been speaking to.
No, but just to
Okay,
you spoke to some
well,
reasons.
Hamza sorts this. What do you think of
No,
him?
I didn't say you spoke to Hamza.
He's made this argument.
When?
What do you think of him?
When?
Oh, go and look up his arguments on YouTube.
When?
Well, I don't know the date off the top of my head. Go and look up his debates with atheists. He makes this argument every time.
let me give you a different position. So,
Okay.
what we've discussed is there's an idea of trying to get rid of time because that would be the thing that would get in the way of an infinite past. And we talk about everything.
Well, it's a conventional notion of time. It's not actually getting rid of time.
Sure, I understand.
It's our
time acts on maths.
it's our layman's understanding of time.
So
Shabir Ali, he makes this argument as well. What do you think of him?
great guy.
Okay, he makes his exact same argument. So you must agree with me then that he's making false arguments.
I've not heard him make the argument and how he's made the argument.
Okay, go and look at any debate he's done with an atheist. He makes this argument.
I don't think that you've presented anything for me personally.
Yeah.
That counters that concept.
Why not?
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. So we talked about first of all removing the now because you said that this was perceptual. Then I removed
Universal.
Yeah. And you said this is because of perceptions, and you gave the example of the train and the lightning strikes. So then I removed perception out of the equation. So this is the same as if a tree falls down in the forest, there's no one to listen to, can you hear the sound? Is there a sound? And this is sort of realms we're in now, a little bit sort of skirting shaky ground. Right? Then you said that the events will still be real, and in a deterministic way, the way that sort of conventionally science understands how or physics understands the universe. Everything is sort of what's happening at this moment is directly related to a small fraction of time before, and everything because the particles are moving, the outcome's determined. And we take that backwards, and then we have the observations that you spoke about, redshift and background microwave radiation, etc., that leads to a singularity where the conventional understanding is that mass becomes infinite. So time
No, it's not that mass becomes infinite.
Sure, mass and
the density
becomes infinite. Sure,
curvature.
Sure. So at that stage, where actually the time will still be active, you've brought another theory, which actually is contradictory, that says actually if you get rid of mass,
I haven't heard. I need to know because it's like a month away.
I just forward your email.
Can you give me their email and then we
Okay, yeah, I will.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Go.
So if you get rid of mass, then you can essentially or reduce mass to such a level that time itself doesn't really come into the equation. And I think that's just a cop-out. That's what I think. No offence. Because you're just finding another theory that could somehow maybe take away this notion that we have to deal with an infinite series of past events. So for me, I think that's still as a logical, looking at the universe in a logical way, and causality as we conventionally understand it, I think that's the cosmological argument is a reasonable argument. And I haven't really seen any defeaters personally to that argument. So I think when these arguments are made, depending on exactly how they're made, I think they're still effective. Because the reality is that we do perceive time, and we do see causality, and we haven't really seen a demonstration of a scenario in which causality does not exist yet. And I think if we got to that stage, maybe we could say there's no time, there's no causality. What are you going to say about this scenario? But actually, I don't have a reason to accept them now. And contradictory theories are not a good reason, I don't think.
Okay, so let me respond to that. So first off, the relativity of simultaneity is not observer dependent. It's a fundamental feature, as we understand it, of the universe. It is not, of course we describe it in these cases of the guy on the train, and we have observers, okay? But it isn't something that depends on conscious observers, okay? So I think that's an invalid point, okay? Of course, we don't perceive the relativity of simultaneity, and there's a very simple reason for that, a very simple explanation for that. We don't move at speeds anywhere near the speed of light. So of course we don't. That's no surprise. However, we have to put relativity into our GPS satellites. These principles are in those satellites. If you didn't put them in, you would not get accurate GPS signals, right? So this is not something hypothetical. This is not something that's dependent on a conscious observer. Now, to say the cosmological argument is a valid argument, it has to have evidence to support it. It's got these premises, right? The universe had a beginning, everything that begins to exist has a beginning, okay? You've got to establish that those premises are true if you're going to have a deductive argument. You can't just throw them on the table, right, and say prove they're not true, which I think has been Darren's approach, okay? You've got to, if you're making this argument, the Kalam argument, the onus is on you to establish that they are true. And if I can put sufficient doubt on whether they're true, then you cannot confidently conclude the argument. Now, it doesn't mean, I'm not claiming I've disproven the assumptions. I'm not saying the assumptions are known to be false, but we don't know them to be true.
Just attack me. Sorry, which part of my belief in that the cause of the universe requires to be uncaused, have you attacked or disproved?
Okay, no.
Or shown to be illogical?
I think you're misunderstanding the point I was making. You were saying that you were entitled to that belief because I couldn't disprove that there wasn't a beginning. Right, and I'm saying it doesn't depend on that. If you're going to advance this argument, then you need to show the evidence for the premises. If you make a deductive argument, you have to show the evidence for the premises. Okay? Now, the evidence that people have shown for the premises, right, is not good evidence, is what I'm saying. So
you're
They've
saying
shown Big Bang cosmology, and what we've seen is that Big Bang cosmology does not establish a universe.
So you're saying my premise that the universe began to exist.
Yeah.
You're saying that's illogical.
No, I'm not saying it's illogical. I'm saying you haven't established it to be true beyond any reasonable doubt, which is what you need in a deductive argument. Right? If you're going to make a deductive argument, now if you have a deductive argument with two premises, right? Suppose you say that premise one is 60% probability of being true, and I can't dispute that. Okay? Premise 2 has 60% probability of true, and I've got nothing that dispute that. What's the probability that the conclusion is true? Tell me, Darren. Of the conclusion being true. I've got two premises. One premise has a 60% probability of being true. Premise 2 has 60% probability of being true. What's the probability that the conclusion is true?
No idea, tell me.
It's just multiplying two numbers, Darren. Come on. Come on, you're not that.
Well, you want to multiply 60 by 60?
0.6 times 0.6 is what?
0.6 is 0.36.
Exactly. See, you can do it, right? So in fact, so that means that even if you've got two premises where each premise is more likely to be true than not, the actual conclusion is less likely to be true than not true.
Okay,
right?
Here's how I see it.
You have to establish that the premises are true to a high level of probability.
All right,
okay?
I've got you.
So you understand that.
Right. So me believing the universe had a beginning, you're saying cannot be proven either way.
Correct.
So bring something else then.
Okay, so there's to what question?
To the same.
So the question is the Kalam a valid argument?
I'll give you an example. No. I'll give you an example. I believe the universe began to exist.
Okay.
I've not seen evidence like you do, like you like to do, to say it didn't always.
Right.
It's always existed.
Okay.
But I believe it began to exist.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe we've always existed and the universe has always existed. Expansion or whatever it was.
Yeah.
All right. So right now we're at an impasse because neither of us can prove our case.
I don't think. I don't. I
No,
really-
no,
I
I'm
think
not-
you're. I think actually, if I'm honest, I think you're in a. I think the position that you've taken. I think it's quite. In my view, it's quite weak. Maybe I'm naive about the science of it, but the models you're bringing in the mathematical, they're models of the universe.
Well, all models of the early universe are
Can
mathematical.
I-
Sure, just 1 second.
I was going to just allow him.
Oh, you're going to allow him? Okay.
I'm allowing him. I'm allowing him.
Okay, all right, we'll come back to it.
Right. So now, what other reasons have you got to support what you're saying?
Okay, so what reasons have I got to support that the Kalam is a bad argument?
No. What other reasons have you got to support the idea that the universe has always existed?
I'm not claiming the universe has
No.
always existed.
But I'm believing that the universe
Okay.
began to exist.
Okay.
Right. Now,
So the question is that a rationally defended belief?
you can't touch that, can you?
Okay, so let's take the case. Suppose I say there's life on Mars.
Okay.
There might be life on Mars, there might not be, but scientists are investigating that. Now, if I make this claim, I believe there is life on Mars,
Right.
you are rationally justified in saying that's unreasonable.
No.
Because there isn't any
No,
evidence to support it.
no. It doesn't go that far straight away. If you say
go on.
I believe there's life on Mars,
Yeah.
I'll say, why do you believe there's life on Mars?
Okay. Fine, okay. So why...
And then you give me your
okay.
reasons to support your belief, and then I will then make a
Okay.
judgment whether or not you are delusional or not.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So when someone says to me about prove there's no spaghetti monsters and all that nonsense, I simply ask them, do you believe in spaghetti monsters?
No, of course, you're right.
Right.
Okay.
So the belief, you have to have reasons to hold the thing. So I'll say it again.
Right, agreed.
So I believe the universe had a beginning.
Right.
Because I don't believe it's always been here.
Right.
And I don't have any, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't give you scientific reasons. I'm sure if I went and researched, I could find something. All right. I could
I'm
look
sure
up.
you could.
Right. But you've got
the point
nothing.
is,
But you've got nothing in the alternative way to say the universe has always existed either.
Okay, I'm not claiming the universe.
No. But you have nothing. That's the point.
Right.
Whether you're claiming it or not is irrelevant. You have nothing. There is nothing. All right. So at this juncture, you're in no position to tell me the universe didn't begin to exist, are
What
you?
you're saying to him essentially is just to summarise,
Yeah.
is that I don't know, but you can't know either.
Exactly.
Yes, that's
Which is
what I'm
I
saying.
think that's unreasonable. Because the thing that you're bringing, and it goes back to my point I was about to make, that the thing that you're bringing to say that I don't know, therefore you can't know, are two contradictory mathematical theories. And that's a problem. Because actually there's no coherence in the argument you're bringing. You're bringing an ad hoc argument on. Actually there's
And
a theory.
what's ad hoc?
So the idea that because we know that everything was the mass was not the mass was increasing, but the density was increasing, and therefore time would still have been acting on that scenario. But then you bring another theorem that says actually if there was no mass, then time would act in that way. But these two things are not directly reconcilable.
What do you mean they're not reconcilable?
So was there mass at the beginning of the universe or not?
We don't know.
Okay, we don't know, but there's good reason to think there wasn't.
What's a good reason?
Because the Higgs field would have switched on after the Big Bang. That's how we model
That's a
the evolution
presumption.
of the universe. Yeah, it might not be true,
Yeah,
but there are reasons
so
to
this
think
is the
that it
problem.
is true.
This is the thing. What
There
I'm
are
saying.
reasons to think this. So it's not ad hoc. It's not someone just suppose, maybe there wasn't.
Sure.
That's
No,
not.
I'm not saying that
the
because
argument.
obviously the science is much more developed
Yeah.
and nuanced than that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is when it's presented as a defeater, it's presented in an ad hoc way.
I'm not presenting it as a defeater.
Great.
What I'm
So we're
saying
agreed
is,
then it's not a
what
defeater.
I'm saying is, you don't need to prove. If you have a deductive argument, right, then you don't need to prove that the assumptions of the argument are false. You only have to show that they haven't been shown to be true. Then the deductive argument is not a valid argument.
all it would
Darren,
mean-
look, if you believe in God for some other reason than the Kalam argument,
Yeah.
then that's a separate conversation.
Agreed.
Okay.
No, but we're
that's
talking about
fine.
the universe here.
Right?
Let's stay on
But
point.
if you're saying that the Kalam argument provides evidence for God, right, then you need to show that the premises are true. Okay? It's not enough to say, oh look, he doesn't know and I don't know, so I'm justified in saying the premises are true. You're not justified in saying
No,
the
that's not the
premises
point,
are
is
true.
it? That's not
You
the
have
point.
to show that they're true.
Well, let's go back to what I just said to you. Right now, I know the doctor says you're in a weaker position, but I'm going to allow it in the equal position. So you can't prove it, I can't prove it. So what else you got to support what you're thinking? You ain't even got a position though, have you?
Okay, so it depends on what question you're asking.
Beginning of whether the universe had a beginning or not.
Okay, I don't have a position.
You don't have a position?
Right, correct.
Does it matter?
Well, it matters if you're going to use the beginning of the universe as an argument for the existence of God, or as evidence supporting the existence of God. If you're going to use that, then yes, it matters.
So if the universe did have a beginning, you then concede it needs a cause.
No.
It doesn't need a cause, even if it has a beginning.
Right.
So how did it begin?
Okay, so let's take the case where it does have a beginning, because it might have.
That's what I'm saying.
So let's take that case.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to talk about a cause? Everything we know about causes is that they happen before their events. But what we understand about the universe now, and we've only really understand this since Einstein, really, I think, is that time is part of the fabric of the universe. Okay, space and time are not these two completely independent things.
Right.
They're tied together. They're part of the fabric of the universe.
Right.
So if the universe had a beginning, there wasn't any before. You can't talk about before the beginning of the universe if it had a beginning, right? And therefore, what we understand about causes can't really make any sense anymore. Because if I asked you, write an essay, what were the causes of World War II? You would say Germany invaded Poland, you might say the Treaty of Versailles upset the Germans, it turned them into fascists. You're going to be talking about things that happened before, right? Whenever I talk, are you familiar with something called the Hill criteria?
No.
So you understand that...
no.
I know, I'm going to try and explain it to you.
Oh, I thought you were explaining like I knew it.
So the Hill criteria, so in statistics, you can show that there are very strong correlations between things that obviously have no relationship. A good example is there's like a 0.97 correlation between the number of lemons that have been imported into the United States from Mexico and how many road fatalities there are. Now, no one thinks that these two things are causal. So you have to say, well, okay, they're highly correlated. How do we establish that A cause B? And there's something called the Hill criteria, which is what most people in medical statistics and in social sciences, and they use these criteria to try and establish that A caused B. And one of the criteria is A had to happen before B. If it's going to be a cause of B, it has to be before. So the problem is, if the universe had a beginning, there is no before. And therefore you don't have a right to demand there must still be a cause.
So this is where the language,
exactly
fails in actually the analysis.
Okay.
This is the problem. So the way of phrasing it is without using time references. So so when we say that the universe had a beginning, then it assumes that there was a circumstance in which there wasn't a universe. No time in that statement. So I accept that there was a circumstance in which there was no universe. And then the universe came and time and everything else started.
The problem is and then implies there's time.
Sure,
but the whole point is
but
if the universe had a beginning, there can't be any time.
So right? there was a circumstance in which there was no universe. The universe started. Because we're here. So the problem now is to say that you can't say before, because that's the intuitive question. Okay, well, what happened before? Right. But actually we're saying no, technically you can't use it. But it's not being used in a technical sense, it's being used in just a descriptive sense, a layman's sense. So maybe to say that there was a circumstance in which there wasn't a universe, and now then there is a universe. Now that implies a beginning. Also implies that the cause of that beginning had to be outside of that universe to start with. Because the cause had to exist before the effect. We're using the word term before.
Exactly, but you can't, that's the whole point. You are not entitled to use the term before if there isn't any time.
So this is where the language doesn't allow the analysis.
Okay, it's not just the language. It's the fundamental concepts, the rationality of the concepts. If there's no time before the universe, you can't talk about a before.
So according to your principle then, you said the universe could never have had a beginning.
I'm not saying it couldn't have.
You are saying that.
How am I saying that?
So how did it begin?
I don't claim it did begin. And if it did begin...
No.
I
know the title.
I think Imran's understanding what I'm saying.
You just conceded if the universe had a beginning.
If it had a beginning, what I'm saying is...
I'm asking you, how did it begin?
You cannot demand that it must have had a cause. Because everything
so how did it begin?
Causes...
How did it begin without a cause?
Well, okay... I don't know. I'm not claiming to know the ultimate origin of all things. Right. It's the theist that's claiming to know the origin of all things. Right?
What if time doesn't apply to the cause of the universe?
Sorry?
What if time doesn't apply to the cause of the universe?
Well, if time doesn't apply...
to the cause of the universe.
Right, then you cannot make a claim that there must be a cause.
What?
Because as I said, what we understand about causes is they are temporal. A cause happens before its effect. So if the universe had a beginning, right, you cannot demand there must still be a cause because there isn't a before the.
Let's reverse the
before
question.
The time.
Maybe
right?
to understand. Let's
If there was
let's just reverse the question.
Okay.
I assume that there was a circumstance in which there wasn't a universe. That we have a universe. So for me, there has to be a start process. And I say the universe is an effect, and therefore there has to be a cause. And now that cause is outside of time, because automatically...
It's not in the universe.
It's not in the universe. It's not, and that cause has to have, just a conceptual analysis, has to have at least as much power as the mass within the universe. Energy.
Why?
Because if you're going to... If you've
Why
got,
does it have to be powerful?
I'll explain. If you're going to have an effect, can you have, as we understand it, can you have an effect that's greater than the work you put into it?
Well, it depends how you're defining work.
So say if I have
if you're
say if I have
defining work,
an elastic band,
okay,
and my muscles are only so strong, I can only stretch it to a certain limit. I can't put any more energy into that band than I have.
Agreed.
So whatever the mass and the energy within the universe is,
Yeah.
which is, I know it's not constant, but it's been pretty much the same since the beginning, because it's just been interchanged between mass and energy.
Well, here's the thing: the total mass energy of the universe may be zero, right?
On average.
Yeah. So it may be zero. We don't know because the gravitational energy is negative, the mass energy is positive. It's perfectly conceivable that the two balance out and are zero. Okay. In fact, there's a theorem in physics where you can show that if it's not zero, the universe must be eternal in the past. That's called the quantum eternity theorem. Okay. Now, of course, you can always say, well, maybe it wasn't zero. That's fine. You can always violate a theorem by violating the assumptions, right? So, but if it was zero, then could it be that a finite being could create it? In fact, physicists have actually looked at this issue. Could you actually make a universe in a laboratory?
Could you?
And they think maybe you could. I mean, no one knows. But there's no a priori reason to think that you couldn't.
So you're saying there is a power within this universe to create this universe?
You keep misunderstanding maybe for is, right? It could be that our universe was created by some scientists in another universe.
No.
Certainly, it's conceivable.
No.
I think this takes us to the crux of the beginning, the title that we have.
Yeah.
Because really what you're saying to me, and you're saying it again, is that you don't know. When there's lots of different theories that are competing, that could be even...
And the irony is, we don't mind if they don't know.
So
But no, that's
what I'm
fine,
saying is
of
there's
course.
But don't say we're wrong.
No, I'm not saying... Okay, you are wrong if you are making an argument, and Imran has said he thinks the Cosmological argument is a reasonable argument.
I do think so.
Right? Maybe you don't, Darren. But Hamza does, Shabir Ali
The
does.
cosmological argument.
Hamza's
I'm down with that. I have no problem with that.
Right, Shabir has. So maybe you don't. But
No,
Imran
I do
does.
believe in the cosmological
You do.
argument. Of course I
Okay,
do.
well there we go. So now...
So that's why I asked you, which part of that are you saying is illogical?
All right. So it's illogical to affirm a conclusion based on a deductive argument if you don't know that the premises of the argument are valid, if they're true. That is the unreasonable part.
What if I believe the Quran is from the cause of the universe?
If you believe God for another reason, we have to debate that other reason.
No, that's what I said to you.
Okay,
So that's why.
But if you're saying this reason is one of your reasons,
Phil,
then
what did I
we
say?
can disagree.
I said we take you to. I allowed you to get to an even keel, and I said what else you got?
Yeah.
But then the stupidity of me asking that question, you ain't got a position you have to support. All right. So it's me supporting my position, isn't it?
So let me respond.
Go on.
I don't need to show that the premises are false. If you make a deductive
I'm not
argument,
saying that you do.
no, but he is. He's saying, look, you don't think about the logic of his argument. Right,
What
you're saying is, you can't deny the argument because you don't know that it's false.
No,
right?
I didn't say that. I didn't say.
That is
I'll tell you what I said.
Implied.
I'll tell you. I'll be explicit.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. I'm saying to you, you can't say what I believe is false when you don't know yourself. That's what I said.
Okay, I don't need to say that it's false.
That's it.
All I need to show is that it's unreasonable to believe the conclusion if the premises haven't been established.
And why is it unreasonable for me to believe in the universe having a beginning?
Because there's no evidence for that.
Well, why is it unreasonable to believe that? Because belief is it believing without evidence?
I don't agree. You can believe something on the basis of evidence.
And you believe it on the basis of no evidence.
But then it's an unreasonable belief. If you believe it on no evidence, then by definition,
you can have
it's an
reason.
unreasonable belief.
No, but you can have reason,
Yeah, if
isn't
you
it?
have reason, fine. Then you have to give me the reason.
All right, and the Quran says the universe had a beginning.
Okay.
So that's my extra now.
Okay, well that's a separate argument then, isn't
No,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
So what have you got to counter that?
Okay, fine. The Quran gets stuff in cosmology wrong.
What claim about cosmology does the Quran
It
make?
says there are 7 heavens. One above the other.
What does the Quran mean by that?
Well, it says, okay, let's try and see if
No,
we
I
can
think
deduce
I think
it.
it's.
Let's see
Should we
what
let-
we
should we allow
can.
the change,
Let's
or-
see if you want to change the topic. Fine, okay. But this is a
I
change
don't
of
think we've
topic.
come to a conclusion on the other.
Okay, so
All right.
before we move on to a different
I'd
topic.
rather you conclude. I'd rather you conclude.
Okay, I would rather.
Because I
we
want to
conclude.
watch this video. and I want to learn from it.
I'd rather not go to a different topic. We can do it if you wish, but I'd rather stick on one topic.
Yeah,
at a
I don't
time.
mind challenging the Quran.
Okay, fine. Let's stay on this topic then, on the Kalam argument, right? So I can say, look, if you believe it and there's no evidence to support the premises, that's an unreasonable belief. That is what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying your belief is wrong, but it can be unreasonable even if we don't know if it's right or wrong, right? If I say, I believe there's life on Mars because I had a dream there was life on Mars, that's unreasonable,
Agreed.
right? It's not necessarily false though, is it? There could be life on Mars.
No, I'd ask you why you believe it.
Right? Exactly. So if I believe it for bad reasons, it's an unreasonable belief. Yes? Right. So for the Kalam argument, right, if you believe that the Kalam argument is valid because science has shown there's a beginning, or because you think there's a logical inconsistency with thinking that things can be infinite, then these are bad
No,
arguments.
what I would do, I would look at
Right.
the claims of whoever makes the claim the universe is infinite. But
Okay.
you don't make that claim. That's the fault. That's what I don't get. You're not
Okay.
making the claim the universe is infinite, are you?
No, I'm not. Just as I wouldn't be making the claim that there isn't life on Mars. But you
Right.
would still be unreasonable if you believed there was life on Mars because you dreamt it, right? I would have no evidence that there isn't life on Mars, right? But I can still say you are unreasonable for believing what you believe.
The universe had a beginning.
Right? Let's just take the example of life on Mars. Let's presume you believed in there was life on Mars because you had a dream there was life on Mars, right? That would be an unreasonable belief, and I would be epistemically entitled to say it's an unreasonable belief, even if I have no evidence that there isn't life on Mars.
Right, I get that.
I don't need evidence that there's no life on Mars. Right? And I have no evidence that there's no life on Mars. Right? I don't need it. I can say your belief is unreasonable because the evidence that you've put forward is shoddy evidence. Right? That's in part. Do you understand the criticism now? Right.
If I make a
Okay.
claim,
Go ahead.
you challenge the claim of what I believe. All right.
Yeah.
So you're asking me why I believe the universe had a beginning.
Well, in this case, we're talking about the Kalam argument, right? Is it a valid argument? If I'm not asking
See,
you
what I don't get,
personally
what I don't
whether
understand-
you believe because of the Kalam argument. I don't really care what your personal beliefs are.
No,
We're debating intellectual arguments that people have advanced.
No, I appreciate that.
whether they're valid arguments or not.
But I'm just trying to understand.
Okay.
it. So, because I don't get this idea about if the universe had a beginning, it can't have a cause because time and this, that, the other. When time only applies to the universe.
Okay.
And if the universe didn't
Okay.
exist, if there is a cause of the universe, which there must be if it had a beginning.
No, but that's the point. You can't say there must be. Because
So you're saying the universe could begin without a cause? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you can't talk about causes.
No, you
Is
said
there any confidence
we used the example.
when there's no time?
We used the example, didn't we? We accepted if the universe had a beginning.
Yeah,
You're saying it could begin without a cause.
sure, okay, sure.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Based on what?
Based on our understanding of causality. Our understanding of causality is that causes happen before their effects. But if the universe had a beginning, then there's no before. Therefore, the condition...
Unless there's a different time.
Therefore,
Unless there's no time.
Therefore, the condition of causality is not present. Okay?
So at what point?
So let's put it this way.
I don't get that. I don't understand this principle.
This is
I
what
think-
it boils down.
This is where you know it's
Because you haven't thought about the nature of time and causality.
No.
maybe.
The time applies to the universe, doesn't it?
Yes.
I don't
Time is
believe.
something
Right.
that's
So
part
I
of
don't
the fabric
believe.
of the
I don't
universe.
believe
Yeah.
anything in the universe. Yeah.
Yes.
Has anything to do with the cause.
No, I know you don't. But that's not the point.
Right. No, it is the point because you keep applying a principle of this universe as a condition on the cause of it, and I don't get that.
Okay. Let me try and explain it. Let me try and respond. It's perfectly. I don't say there couldn't be some cause that we don't understand. Some cause that's not part of time, which I
Right.
think is what you're
Right.
asserting. Right?
No. You're saying. You're definitive in this. You're saying there can be no cause without
No.
time.
I'm
You
not
didn't say
saying
that.
No, I think you misunderstood my
What did you
point.
say?
I'm saying you are not entitled to demand there must be a cause. Okay?
Why not?
Because everything we understand about causes is they happen before their effects.
All right. Do you know of any effect
Right.
that happens without
Now-
a cause?
Possibly.
Give me one.
Radioactive decay. Which particle decays?
What causes a particle to decay?
Okay, no, it's not that. Okay, let me try and explain. we understand how particles decay and what causes them to decay. They're unstable.
So
okay? But what many physicists advance is that if you take the half-life of a particle, okay, there is only a probability that it will decay, and which of the atoms decay doesn't have a cause.
Can it decay without a cause? What's the cause of a radioactive decay?
Okay, it's
what needs to happen to the particle?
Okay, the substance has to have an unstable mass. Okay.
Right.
So but that's not. You're missing the point. The issue is which particles decay, not whether it decays.
No. Why they decay?
No. But that's not the question.
Well, of course we are. Why does it have the effect?
No. Okay. No.
What?
You're missing. You're totally misunderstanding the
All right.
point.
Can a particle decay if it's not unstable?
Not to my knowledge.
Right. So for a particle to decay, it requires to be unstable.
Yes.
So the cause of a particle is its unstable
But you're missing
nature.
the point, Darren. You're missing the
Keep
point.
missing these points. What point
Okay.
now?
So let me try and explain it. It's not whether the particle decay, whether the substance decays. It's which particles decay that is considered not to have a cause by actually the majority of physicists.
But if you're talking about particle decay, we're talking about a particle that's decaying. We're not talking about the particles on.
No. When you have a substance, let's take, you've got a pile of carbon-14, okay? It's going to decay to, is it carbon-12, I think, right? From my memory, okay? So the issue is not, do we understand why does it decay from carbon-14 to carbon-12? It has a half-life, you understand that, right? And the half-life is, I don't know, was it 5,700 years or something, right? Something like that, okay? The issue is not whether it decays or not. The issue is which half decays.
Okay.
What is causing one half to
what is
decay,
what?
causing one half
Alright.
and not the other.
Okay.
And as far as physicists understand it,
Right.
and many physicists advance this,
Right.
there is no cause for one Y
Or they
one
don't know
and
what
not
the
the
cause
other.
is.
Well, that's one interpretation.
Funny thing, you should have said don't know at that point.
Okay.
Ironically.
Well, okay, the point is, you've asked, is there something that may not have a cause?
Well, no,
Okay?
but no, but
and that's an example of something
but
that
it
might
isn't.
not have a cause.
I don't believe
But
it
that's
is.
not, it's irrelevant to this
No.
argument.
You just
This-
use You just use a particle decaying as not having a cause. Yeah, we've already established for it to decay, it requires to be unstable. Therefore, that's its cause.
We just can't
Again, you've misunderstood.
No, and then
You've
obviously,
misunderstood. There are two questions,
No.
Darren.
And then the
Darren,
second,
there are two
and then the second question is this: what causes the particle to become unstable? That's what you can't answer.
No,
Yes.
that's not it. No, you've not understood the problem. There are two questions, okay?
Go on.
One, concerning whether the particle decays or not, and what are the conditions for the substance to decay, okay? But there's a second question. So that is not what we're saying is a cause, or what some people claim is
All
a
right,
cause.
let me repeat my question.
Right, no,
and you
let
answer
me
it
try,
again.
let me clarify. Let me clarify, right? There are two things that you're confusing, right? One is whether something will decay. But the second question is which half decays. And it's the second question whereby it is thought there may be a breakdown in causality.
Well, that wasn't what I asked you.
Okay, I know, because you've confused the issues.
No, I
right?
never have.
Why is it a breakdown of causality?
All right, but well, tell me, what is the cause? What is the cause for why one half decays and what the other? They're identical.
Because it's unstable.
No,
Because it's
but that
unstable.
doesn't answer it at all,
Why?
Darren.
Why does it decay? Because it's
No,
unstable.
but it's not why it decays.
if we
It
cannot-
is why one half and
Why this
does
particular
and
particle?
why the other half doesn't
Oh.
when they're both identical.
Right.
What is the cause, Darren? You tell me.
I don't know the cause. Why would I know the cause?
Okay, well you're asserting everything has a cause.
You don't believe it has a cause?
Well, many physicists don't believe that. I'm not
No,
saying.
they don't know it. But does that mean
No,
it's
they
not?
assert that it doesn't because the two are identical.
So for no reason.
Yes,
So
that is
for no
what they
reason it
assert.
becomes unstable.
Yes.
So this is where to make this a claim about this is now an uncaused effect is simply this. I would say science of the gaps. I really would say that because there's some process that's occurring.
Okay.
Because actually there is nothing that as far as I'm concerned, some effect without a cause. It's just that we don't know how this particular half becomes the unstable.
Just because we don't know it, doesn't mean it's not got a cause.
Okay.
So I'd say good attempt at trying to produce a non-cause effect, but that's not going to work. It's just that we don't know why that particular half becomes unstable.
You know, you can even say we don't know what's causing it.
But hang on. You have asserted that everything has a cause. So you have to back that up.
Yes.
So I'm asking you what is the cause and you can't tell me.
No, I
so
think-
you are in the don't know of the
No,
gaps argument.
but you're already asking me what the cause
We're
is.
taking your position.
So what is the cause?
I don't know what the cause is.
So how can you assert everything has a cause?
Just because I know what the cause is doesn't mean it's not a cause.
Right, but you can't prove that it has a cause. How are you establishing that everything has a cause?
So
With what?
Okay, I'll tell you why. Right. So and this goes back to the principle.
back a little bit. I'm a little bit question.
We go back to the basic principles.
Yeah.
So from a small population of observations, a small
No.
we then
The question was
generalise to
about
a
the
larger population. So everything that we observe within the universe, every effect has a cause. So you give an example of something that looks like an effect that we don't understand if there's a cause or not. I would say, looking at, and this is a scientific approach, looking at our observations of within the universe, there is a cause for that, we just don't know what it is yet.
But that's an assertion without evidence.
No, it's not. The evidence is...
What is the evidence?
The evidence is all of the observations of effects within the universe, for every observation, having a cause.
But that's a circular argument, because you're basically saying, I observe all these things that have causes, and I've got these things that are, let's say, candidates for non-cause, and I'm going to assume that they have causes because the other things I've observed have causes.
So
but then, basically, you're basically saying, I'm not going to let any contender for acausality into my equation, right? Because I'm just going to exclude that on principle.
I'll make it a bit more concrete. We've always observed the sun rise in the morning, throughout time.
Yeah.
I assume that this is going to rise tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
May not.
Right.
But actually, this is taking finite observations and generalizing from them.
Yeah.
In our universe, everything that we've observed as an effect has a cause. You've described an effect and say we don't understand the cause. And I'm saying that that's a problem of a lack of knowledge.
Well, that's what you claim. Other people claim it's not a question of lack of knowledge, and it's fundamentally random. It is not a reason why one half decays at this point and the other half doesn't. Okay, that's what many physicists assert. I'm not saying they're right. Okay, but that's what they assert.
So it's a random process,
right? Yes. Okay, fundamentally random. We're not talking. There's different definitions of random. Okay, what we're talking about. One definition of random is simply you can't predict it. Okay, that's not what we're talking about.
What are you saying?
This is fundamental randomness.
Right.
Okay,
A random process.
yes. Okay.
And what does this process do?
In fact, a survey of physicists was done recently about whether this is fundamentally random, and about 2/3 of them said yes, fundamentally random. There are, others that say
so the
what
process...
Imran is saying, that no, there's some hidden cause, and that's certainly conceivable, right? But we don't know it to be true. So therefore, you are not in a position to assert. If you're asserting that this is the truth, then you have to establish that this is the truth.
So what
and you haven't established that. But having said
something
that,
causes a decay.
that's your assertion.
No, does it?
Okay.
I'm just saying that physics at the time scale, it's yet unknown and yet to be unraveled.
Correct.
About what's driving that decay.
Well, thank you.
Well, of course, there is always a possibility that there is some unknown cause, right?
Basically, what these guys are saying is that at t equals 0, physics breaks down.
Well, no, that's incorrect.
That's what these guys are saying. At t equals 0,
Okay.
physics breaks
But
down.
even
When maths breaks down, and therefore the cause of the universe is non-physical.
Okay. But that I think is incorrect. But so there you go. You've just heard it. He's saying at t equals 0, the laws of physics break down, and that is based on singularity theorems, which we know are not valid. Right? They have energy condition assumptions that have been disproved by observations. Okay, and it's based on the idea that relativity and quantum mechanics, right, are consistent when they know they're not consistent.
If the universe has a beginning, right?
If it has a beginning with a singularity, it has a beginning because you could have a beginning without a singularity, right? You could imagine that's true, right? So
just one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said that there could be a universe without singularity.
You could imagine it's true. I don't know of how you would really firm that up.
So who would imagine that?
But actually, I do know of a model with a beginning without a singularity. That is the Vilenkin tunneling from nothing model. And in that model, I don't believe there's a singularity, from my recollection of it. But here, what you have is a scenario where you kind of have the laws of physics have to exist ontologically without the universe, and then they tunnel the space and time. Who knows? It's a speculative model. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, you can't tell me it's impossible, can you?
All these models speculative.
Anything about what happened at the Big Bang at the moment is not confirmed by observations. Okay, so in that sense, it's speculative, right? So
really, what you're saying is that there's uncertainty from the scientific perspective, and therefore, if you're going to make an argument for using the Cosmological, you have to have a non-scientific way of showing You can't have a
Exactly.
series of possibilities.
Well, one thing at a time. People advance the Kalam arguments. They use philosophical arguments and scientific arguments. So let's just deal one at a time, right? The scientific argument, I think I've given a good reason why it's invalid. Do you have a response to why you think on science that it's valid?
What's that?
The Kalam.
So I don't think that presenting an argument that says without mass there's therefore no time, and then you can't talk about
Yeah, I think that's
the
nonsense.
circumstance in which the universe doesn't exist and the universe existing because it's talking about causality that we have to automatically disregard this. I think you're presenting contradictory arguments.
You're conflating two different arguments, okay? The issue about mass and time was related to the philosophical argument, okay? But in this case, we're talking about the scientific argument, okay? Does science confirm through observations of Big Bang cosmology that the universe had a beginning? And I'm saying no, it doesn't.
It only goes to the Big
Okay,
Bang itself.
it doesn't, right? So do you agree with that statement that the science does not confirm that the universe had a beginning? We can talk about philosophical arguments. That's fine. But one argument at a time, right?
So why do you say the universe is 13.8 billion years old?
Well, when cosmologists say universe is 13.8 billion years old, what they mean is that is the expansion history of the universe. So that's how far we can trace it back with our observations. So yes, we can go with our observations. We can go back 13.8 billion years. At 13.8 billion years, we are unable to say what happened. Now there are theorems, as I said earlier, proven by Penrose and Hawking, which shows that event actually is the beginning of the universe. However, what's happened since those theorems were developed in the 60s and 70s is that we now have reason to think, and some of it observational reasons, some of it theoretical reasons, to think that those theorems no longer apply. Okay, and in fact, Penrose and Hawking, I've interviewed both of them, and both of them say the Penrose-Hawking theorems do not apply to the universe. Okay, one reason is there's something technical. It's called the energy condition. We know from observations that it's violated, but more importantly, what physicists think now is that there's a conflict between relativity, which is our theory of large-scale structure of the universe, and quantum mechanics, and those singularity theorems only use relativity. They don't have any quantum mechanics involved in it, right? So what cosmologists have done, and actually here is a reason to think the universe may be eternal into the past. I don't think it's a very strong reason, but it is some reason. What cosmologists have done, or what physicists have done, is they've developed a number of approaches to try and unify quantum mechanics and general relativity. String theory is one example, but there are others. And this is very important. String theory is not the only approach. There's something called loop quantum gravity, another one called Hajava lift-shifts gravity, and another one called causal dynamical triangulations, or is it causal set theory? I can't remember. But certainly the big three would be string theory, loop quantum gravity, and Java lift-shifts gravity. Okay, those are the three most cited. Okay, now people have developed models of the Big Bang using these theories, and what is very interesting is that all of them have the same conclusion: the Big Bang is not the beginning, and singularities are not allowed, and the universe then always exists. Okay, now of course we don't know that these theories are right. They haven't been tested. We don't know, but the fact that they all come to the same conclusion is at least
Phil,
weakly suggestive.
One quick thing.
Okay,
But
go ahead.
the thing that I'm getting from this is that because quantum theory and general relativity contradict, they need to be overhauled. We need an overarching theory that would actually correctly explain things
I
better.
agree.
So we can the same situation. There is uncertainty that you can't get past.
Yes.
So we have to put the scientific method of arriving at conclusions about who did that, at least currently, to the side for a moment.
Okay, so can we agree then, yes or no, that science does not establish the truth of premise 2 in the Kalam that the universe had a beginning?
I think what we can agree on
Can we
is...
agree on that?
It's not a yes or no answer. I think what we can agree on is that science doesn't establish anything.
No. This is not like that. That's a bad response. Because I can take the view that everything in science is open to doubt, right? But this isn't like that at all, right? Because you can have like 20 independent lines of evidence that all go to the same conclusion. You can always have some doubt about it. Maybe we're brains in a vat. You can always have some doubt about something, right? But this doubt is not like that, right? This doubt is based on the fact that these theorems, right, have a fundamental contradiction in them. Okay?
Can I ask you a question
and
as a layperson?
therefore, we have a much stronger reason to doubt them than the sort of vague doubts you would have about anything in science, because anything is always... It's not like that at all.
Sure. I'm not talking about the vague doubts. I'm talking about the specific. We're talking about the beginning of the universe. Bringing contradictory theories and ad hoc theories about getting rid of time, etc., don't help to establish that there is strong evidence against any conclusion about there being an infinite, not being able to traverse an infinite past. I don't think that's been established. I think it's good, because what you're saying to any theist generally, but Muslims specifically, because you're talking to us, is really know your stuff. Try and learn and find out a bit more.
Yes.
I love that.
And if you believe in an argument that has certain scientific evidence, what that should do is, you rather than when you say believe something, believe in God, don't believe in God, you always often answer yes or no. But rather, I think it's more appropriate to say, I have certain levels of belief. As the evidence gets stronger, my levels of belief go
I ask you
up.
one question?
And now people, yes, but one second, right? Now people have used this argument and said, this has helped me believe in God, right? Or they think it's some convincing argument for God. And what's happened is the science has changed, and now what should happen is your belief in God should go down a bit. How much we can debate, right? But it should go down a bit.
Right. Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Does anything you've said today refute my belief in a creator?
It depends why you established your belief. If you establish your belief...
anything you said today...
No, I'm not at this point. I'm not trying to prove there's no creator.
Done.
All I'm trying to say is that if you are using...
I'm happy.
Okay, good.
Because
I
you
can
said
have
a lot.
other things.
You said
If
a
I can
lot.
say other things...
What do you mean?
If we can talk about other issues, right? And the argument for suffering and so on and so forth, that I think does affect the belief in creator. But in this case, this is an argument that's been advanced to increase our belief, our confidence that there's an intelligent creator. And I'm saying that this argument is not a good argument, and so your belief should go down a bit.
All I'm going to say
Right.
is you seem very, very knowledgeable in cosmological, science, physics, this, that, the other,
Right.
and nothing you've got to say refutes my belief. Alhamdulillah, I'm done.
Okay.
Phil,
If you would like me
been
to
a pleasure.
present something that does refute your belief, I'm happy to do so.
do so.
Okay.
You know the other things you mentioned.
Okay.
What do you want to refute?
Well, I'm talking about the seven heavens. I think that
What about
does
the seven heavens?
show strong evidence that the Quran
What
is
does,
false.
what does the Quran mean when it's the seven
Okay,
heavens?
so when in the Quran, in 71:15,
Oh,
right?
no. Why don't you start quoting these numbers like this? Go on.
Well, because you need to check what I'm saying, right? I can't just assert
Go on,
something without giving a reference, right?
No, you can say it first, then I could possibly say, where does it say that? Then you can give me the verse.
Right, well, I was just anticipating that question. But I apologise if you took offence to that.
No.
Okay? All right. So in that verse, it says, God created seven heavens, one on top of the other, and the sun and the stars and the moon are placed in one of those heavens. Okay? Now, why do I think that's evidence against the Quran? Because if you study the history of astronomy, what you find is that this view of cosmology, of the seven heavens, goes back at least to Aristotle. Okay? Aristotle proposed there were these celestial spheres, one on top of the other. What we know is from ancient astronomers is that what they could see is they could see 5 stars moving differently to all the other stars. Okay? They called these stars the wanderers. And the Greek word for wanderer, anyone know what it is?
Anyway, so your implication
planets.
is,
Okay.
the implication is this: the author of the Quran must have had access to Aristotle's work.
No, it's
No?
not that. Of course. Aristotle could be right. I mean, that's not the point.
No. That
The
wasn't
point is he copied.
No.
The author of the
That's
Quran
not-
copied a
That's what I'm
mistake
saying
of
to you.
Aristotle.
Right. That's the first
They
thing.
copied a mistake.
No, I'm not
Yes.
going to do a mistake
I
or
mean,
not. But
of
here's
course,
the
it
point.
wasn't just Aristotle
No,
who
no,
said that.
no.
They might not have got it from
But
Aristotle.
let's go to the premise.
Okay.
Your premise is Muhammad lied about him receiving supernatural revelation.
I'm not saying lie, because lie implies that you know you're speaking something false.
So you don't believe he lied?
Well,
say don't know.
if you say something is false, it could be false. You could believe a false thing. A lie implies you know what you're saying
right.
is wrong.
I'll make it easy for you.
So he could believe that he was getting
So he could be delusional crazy. Yeah?
He could just be mistaken.
No, he could be delusional crazy thinking angels are talking to him.
That's one possibility,
Right?
sure.
He could be deceived by the devil.
Another possibility,
But you don't believe
sure.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hamza, thank
But you do.
No, you
But
don't.
you do.
Well, you don't. So you wouldn't make that claim, would you?
I wouldn't make that claim, but you couldn't
so you're left
say
with
that that's
So
inconceivable.
you've only got 3 variables.
No, I've got more than
What's your
three.
3?
He could just be mistaken. He
Mistake-
might genuinely
mistaken what?
believe. He might genuinely.
There is her obsession with seventh heaven, how she describes
Yeah, don't worry.
Well, if you want to give us the reason why you think that's a bad
I'll give you
argument.
the video. She basically
Go ahead.
provides the...
No, don't worry about it.
Go ahead, let's hear the reason.
Forget that, don't worry.
No, it's important.
No.
Because this is a very specific argument, and he thinks he has a
This is
reputation
more
for
important.
it. So let's hear it.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry.
Go on, Imran, do you have a reputation?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I was just looking for the hadith, I can't find it, but I'm going to paraphrase it.
Okay.
So the understanding that we've been told, so you have the description within the Quran, you have to understand this. Now, the assumption that is we're told is that everything that we're seeing is the seven heavens. That's not correct. So what we're told is, from the earth when you look out, everything that you see, all of the stars, everything is within the first heaven. So the universe itself, as we know it, would be within the first heaven.
It doesn't say that.
No.
That's why we're asking about
It
understanding
doesn't say everything is in the first heaven.
Let me explain.
Or if it does, I'd like to see the verse.
It's not. So we have in Islam, when we approach understanding, we have two sources, at least two. There's more sources, but at least two. The first is the Quran itself, the statement from the Quran.
Right.
So what does it say? You can look at it, and then you can. And this is where a lot of people, particularly Muslims, they go into looking for a scientific explanation for a verse.
Yeah.
And then we have explanations from the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Yeah.
So that's in the Hadith.
By the way, 7:30, I got to go.
What time
Okay,
is
it's
it?
6:59.
No worries. Thank you. So we're told that in the Hadith we're told that actually between each of the heavens is a distance of 5,000. My voice is a bit low. Sorry.
Don't worry, we got
the
video.
The distance between the heavens.
Not about that video.
So there's seven heavens, and the distance between each heaven is 500 years. So we're given a time, not a distance. At what speed we're not told the speed. But this is the distance that we're told is between the heavens. We're also told in the Hadith, and I know I'm not giving them to you. I could look for it and find it. I'll bring it to you next time. Is that everything that we see, everything observable, stars included, everything is within the first heaven. So this is not a.
But that's not in the Quran. Would you agree with that?
So this is the explanation that we have is not in the Quran, but it's in the Hadith.
Okay.
And these are both religious sources for us that are revealed for us. Okay. So we have. So this is not the Aristotle view of the universe. Okay. So these heavens that it's talking about is something else, and maybe we don't have an explanation. So this is a good question. Maybe we don't have the knowledge to understand what the other six heavens are, but what we do know is that the first heaven and everything within it is the universe.
Okay, can I make a response? Okay, first off, if we study the history of astronomy, we know that people created models of cosmology that we know today are wrong. That there were seven heavens, one above the other, right? And the planets, the 5 planets that they knew about then, we know no more than 5 planets, right? But they only knew of 5 planets. So they put the 5 planets in a separate heaven, one above the other, and the sun and the moon were in the other 2 heavens, okay? And so that's why they believe in 7 heavens. And it's wrong. We agree that's a wrong model.
Absolutely.
We agree Aristotle's model is wrong. So now, the Quran mentions 7 heavens, and it says that one is above the other, right? Right? So that looks remarkably like the wrong model of cosmology.
But it's not.
Right? Now, you've got to have to say that it's pure coincidence that the real reality of the world matches the Aristotelian model, right? Even though it's not the Aristotelian model. That's pure coincidence. But what do you think is a more reasonable explanation? A more reasonable explanation is they just copied a wrong cosmology from Aristotle. Or it was believed at the time of Aristotle. It's not just Aristotle that made this.
The problem with that
right?
position, though, Phil, is that
that's a lie.
It's not.
Well, how is it a lie?
I'll explain.
Sorry, how is it a lie?
All right, because he's claiming he got it from God, and you're claiming he got it from Aristotle.
I'm not saying Aristotle made this. It could have been another source.
If your
of course, he didn't meet Aristotle.
Your assumption is that Muhammad didn't get this information from God, and he got it from some scientific source, and he knows it's from a scientific source, but he's saying it's from God, then he's a liar, really.
No, I don't agree. Here's what could be the case. He believes God is giving him messages. He starts, imagining things, right? And those imaginations are informed from the world around him, from the knowledge around him.
So
lying implies you're speaking a falsehood.
That's what I'm saying.
Whereas he might believe, this is coming from God, and people. It's not as simple as lying.
What you're saying is this.
But it's mistaken.
All right. So what you're saying is Muhammad, peace be upon him, was mistaken and memorized the Christian scripture, the Jewish scripture, the Apocrypha, and the Jewish oral tradition, and these bits of science. Yeah.
And then why does he have to memorize it?
Well, where's he got it from?
He meets people, he hears things.
Who
What's
told
the
you that?
problem?
Who told you he met people and heard things?
Well, people do meet people. People do hear things.
Do you know the
That's
history?
not a crazy assumption, is
How
it?
many times did Muhammad leave Mecca?
I don't know.
Right, so you're talking about something you don't know. Right.
But hang on. I don't need to assume that he left Mecca to think that he met other people, do I?
No. So,
Right? So that
all right,
piece
all
of
right.
knowledge is irrelevant.
So what you're saying now is people came to Mecca with information about the Bible and the Torah and the.
That's conceivable, sure.
all right. When did the Arabian version of the Old Testament reach the Arabian Peninsula?
In a text form
Yeah.
or in an oral form?
Text.
I don't know.
9th century. Okay.
Hang on, how do you know that?
History tells us.
What history?
Okay.
How do you know?
I'll explain it to you. We know from scholarship that the
From scholarship, you have to be more specific. What's the evidence? You can't just say a scholar says it. You have to tell me what the evidence is.
you want it now,
Yes.
right now.
Yes, please. And also, how would you know that oral tradition hadn't gone earlier than 9th century? How could you possibly know that?
No, but this is what we're saying to you. The oral tradition may have.
Right. Well, that's all you need,
No,
isn't
no,
it?
no. But what you
That's
need,
all you
what
need.
you need is this illiterate man to memorize everything he's told. Yeah.
He doesn't have to
He
memorize
does.
everything,
Well,
does
well,
he?
does
Does he?
Well,
I mean, if he's heard that the most learned people of the time think the universe is divided up into seven
no,
heavens,
stop.
that's enough for him to write
because
that
through
verse,
your
isn't it?
through your implication.
Sorry, Imran.
Go on.
Let's say
Let me find what I just said.
The fundamental problem with the idea, the assertion,
Yeah.
is actually he doesn't say that. He
It doesn't say there are seven heavens,
no,
one above the other.
No, he doesn't say that the universe is divided into
It's just conjecture.
It does. Well, it says there are seven heavens, one above the other, and the sun and the moon are in the lower heaven. Correct?
the stars.
Well, okay. It says the lamps. I think. I mean, 71:15. Let's get it out.
37:6, and we have a dawn
Yeah,
that
but
goes to
it's
heaven with the stars.
71:15 is the verse I'm thinking of, right? 71:15 says this.
Glad
Right,
you
let's
got
get it
Quran.
out.
I'm glad you got the Quran.
I've read several translations. Okay.
Classics.
One of them was recommended to me. This one was recommended to me by Paul Williams. He said this is a very good translation. Okay. Or he said it's the one I should read because I've read some others.
Is that the?
It's
This is a really good one as well.
Tarif Khalida.
You can get hold of
Which
it.
one is this one?
This is the Halim translation.
Khalid. Okay. I mean, when I get time to read another translation, I'll look at that. Okay. So here's his translation. Do you not see how God created seven heavens, piled one upon another, setting the moon among them as illuminations and the sun as a glowing lamp?
So it doesn't say anything's above. It
But
doesn't say-
what it does say,
doesn't
God piled one upon another. Piled one upon another. So that is very. Would you at least agree that that is consistent with the Aristotelian model?
So this is.
Can you at least agree with that?
So look, let me tell you. So similarity is not plagiarism.
No, I'm not saying
So
it
this
is.
is the problem that we're having. So if something looks like something else, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's the same thing. You have to analyze it. So you're taking the seven heavens and the seven heavens above one another, and you're saying, okay, these are the same. What the Quran and the Hadith explain is everything within the universe is in the first heaven. Automatically, then it's not the same as what Aristotle
Where?
described.
Okay. I mean, I've not found anywhere. I looked at this in the
I'll bring it
Quran,
forward.
right? That says everything is in the lowest heaven. But also, we have another problem, right? So if you're saying, so the problem is up and down, lower and above, makes sense only when you're near a massive body. So if you're standing on the Earth, you're pulled to its centre of mass. When you're out in space, up and down don't have any meaning. There's no above and below in space because you're not near the centre of mass, right? So it only makes sense to have above and below if you're talking about the Earth, right? But if you're saying the seven heavens are not what Aristotle was saying, then you have to explain how is it they have this notion of above and below. That no longer makes sense, does it?
It's the thing is you're looking at intuitive language with a scientific lens. So it's a description of.
No, that's not what I'm looking for.
So it's a description of the universe from the us human beings from our perspective. So everything else is above.
No.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a scientific explanation of
No, I'm not saying that.
how everything is constructed.
I'm,
In fact, I wouldn't say this is a verse that
I'm looking at
describes
when the Arabic Bible.
the universe in a scientific way at all.
Well, of course you wouldn't because you know it's wrong.
No, because
Right?
no.
I mean, that sort of seems
Actually,
to be a biased
no,
judgment.
No,
here,
there's nothing in it that's
right?
wrong.
If you were just Well, you agreed that the Aristotelian model of cosmology is wrong.
But this
right?
is not the. This is not
I accept that, right? I accept that's what you think. Sorry, right? But what I'm saying is, if it is the Aristotelian model, then it is wrong, right? Let's say we agree with that. But you're saying it's not, okay? So therefore, it's pure coincidence that they use the same number. I mean, it could be any number of heavens, right? It could be 1, could be 2, could be 10 million, could be 10 to the power 100. It could be any number.
Sure.
But yet, it happened to be exactly the same number as the Aristotelian model. Right, and you think, so by your rhyming, that's pure coincidence. What are the odds of that?
Let me explain. So the number 7 in history is one of those numbers that is used for many descriptions. In fact, in Hebrew and Aramaic and other Semitic languages, where you're told to forgive someone 70 times, and that actually means a number without end. It's used to refer to 70. So the word number 7.
17 or 70?
70.
70.
So the number 7 is used to refer to many phenomena without actually it being a specific number. We're told 7 here. Now you can't take a similarity and then say that these therefore they're the same exactly. No, they're similar. How are they similar?
What is the best explanation for that similarity? I mean, would you agree? At least one conceivable explanation is that that was the prevailing wisdom at the time, and so they put it in there. Would you at least concede that's a conceivable explanation?
So I think if you assert that this is the Aristotelian model, then that's a conceivable explanation.
Yeah.
But actually, the model itself has been further explained by the Prophet in the Hadith, as everything that we can see is within the first heaven. And then we're told that the distance between the heavens is.
I'm going to leave. I'm going to go pray.
A time frame of 500
I just want to
years.
find
an interesting conversation.
It has. It's been good.
Yeah.
So between these two,
and I will learn this. Sorry to interrupt. I will learn from this. Alhamdulillah. But what I'm happy about has no bearing whatsoever on what I believe. Alhamdulillah.
you know the
What
other
you're
issue-
happy about, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I hope your beliefs respond to evidence and challenges, right?
You've said nothing that refutes what I believe.
Obviously, I don't think you're going to change your mind like this.
No.
Right, all right,
No, you haven't brought me anything that contests what I believe.
Well, if my argument here is a valid argument, and of course Imran thinks it's an invalid argument, but if it is, then you should.
Where did you find this argument?
I read the Quran and it occurred to me because I've studied the history
So
of
you're
astronomy.
saying to me, you started, what verse is it? You started the Quran there, all the way through.
Give him the benefit of the
I
doubt.
read the whole book. You can see I've highlighted various passages that are interesting
It's
to
not
me.
beyond the realms of reality that you could Google something and you could see the reference and you go to a Quran and you reference it. It's not hard to do that.
No, of course. But even if I did do that, so what? That doesn't change the validity of the
No,
argument.
but what it does...
So what? I don't know where you're going
No,
with
because
it.
your understanding of the argument. See, here's the
I
thing.
read the Quran and this occurred to me.
Can I make life easy for
Okay.
you?
Now you can say I looked it up.
No.
So that changes nothing.
No, Phil, I can make life easy for you.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And I've said it already today, I'm going to
Okay.
repeat it.
Okay.
You come across anything like this, just because I guarantee you will find that on all the anti-Islamic websites, right? Guaranteed.
Is it? I don't know.
It will be. And what you do, you go to Google and you write whatever it is, the 7 heavens, whatever it is, answering Christianity, right? That's all you need to do.
Oh, I've read that website.
No. Well, what answering Christianity does is destroy all these claims.
Well, I don't agree. I don't think their response on this was in
Do you
any
believe?
way adequate.
Did Imran respond to this? Are you happy with his response?
No, I'm not happy with his response too. I completely disagree with it.
Okay.
But I mean, he can develop it more because I think the difficulty here is that you've got to explain how it is that how can it be that it matches. It's all Bolton, isn't it? What's your explanation of that?
The thing is, it doesn't matter.
7 heavens is described in the Aristotelian
the only thing
model,
that matters-
and it's described in the
So
Quran.
the only thing that matters is 2 words: 7 heavens.
Right?
Everything else doesn't matter. So in the Aristotelian model, are all of the stars in the first universe?
The stars actually aren't considered in the 7 heavens. They're part of a different structure. It's a celestial sphere. So actually, if you look at these ancient models, the stars was assumed in the really ancient models, going back to the Babylonians. The stars are on the fixed dome. Okay, they're not considered the 7 layers of heaven.
So even
the
the
7 layers of heaven are the sun, the moon, and the planets.
So the Quran
Okay.
itself says, 37:6, that the stars are in the lowest heavens. We adorn the stars in the lowest heavens. Now, that automatically this is opposite to the view of Aristotle, because he says this is another area, the dome, above the seven heavens, and the Quran is saying
No,
actually.
okay. So the stars are not above the dome. They are embedded. Well, they're different models. There's different models, right? The Babylonians thought they were in a dome. I don't think Aristotle thought they were in a dome. Okay, Aristotle doesn't really describe where the stars are. Okay, but he does describe. Well, what a comment. It's not just, as I say, it's not just Aristotle. There are various different cosmologies, but what they have in common is this notion that Earth is at the centre, and these heavens, these layers, are one above the other.
I'm going to pray.
And we know.
I'll pray this already.
Okay, Darren is lovely to meet you. We know that it doesn't make sense to talk about the sun, outer space having up and down, above and up. We know that doesn't make sense.
I completely agree with you.
Right? And we know that they've got 7 because there are 5 planets that they could see, and 2, the sun and the moon.
So what you mustn't do is take that theory and then impose it upon the Islamic because of the equivalent, because you find 7 heavens. The thing to do is to say, actually, look at these, look, say it, they're similar.
Right.
And what actually are the Muslims saying about this? Did the Prophet speak about this? Did the Quran speak about this in more detail? And then when you have the theory in its some sort of holistic nature, then compare the two.
Okay, but let me just address that. Let's presume that the Quranic model is different to Babylonian model, the Aristotelic. I mean, all these models are not the same anyway. The Babylonians believe something different to what Aristotle believed, and there's variations on these models of ancient cosmology. So let's suppose the Quran's got its own model, right? Look, that doesn't mean that they didn't get the idea of 7 heavens from these wrong models, right? Because in those days, it's not like you had these textbooks with detailed description. They heard things by word of mouth. So they'd hear bits of information, and they hear, oh, there's 7 heavens, right? They don't necessarily know all the details of the model. So we can perfectly explain any variations, right? Slight variations about, whether the sun is on the lowest one or whether it's layer 3. I mean, you can look at pictures of the 7 heavens in ancient cosmology, and they don't necessarily all agree on, what's where. But they all agree that there are 7 heavens, one above another, right? So the fact that you're saying, oh, well, the Quran model is slightly different, to me, that doesn't really disprove the idea.
It's different in a way that makes it non-contradictory to science.
I disagree. If the heavens are one above another, we know that the notion of above and below needs you to be in proximity to a massive object, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to talk about above and below.
No, but
right?
As I said before, and we're getting circles now, so it won't make a sense when. But when the description is given to the human being, that's what's being done. The description is going to be from the human being's perspective. So literally, when we look up, we do see.
Yeah, but you don't see more than 7. You only, if that's the case, you only see one heaven.
We're not told.
But it says, do you not see there are 7 heavens?
So we're not,
right? This is the whole point.
Sure.
It says, that's the whole point. If it was something beyond space and time, let's suppose our universe was one heaven, then it doesn't make sense for the Quran to say, do you not see there are 7 heavens? Because you couldn't see more than one heaven.
But this is...
Right, you couldn't. So that argument doesn't work.
No, because again, you're taking linguistic and rhetoric as literally. So you're told...
So you're saying we shouldn't take the Quran literally?
No, that's not what I said. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So we're talking about comparing 2 models that use the word 7 heavens and assuming they're the same. I don't think that they do. I think they're actually different models because the Quran talks and the Hadith talk about the stars all being within the first heaven. Now the other heavens, we're told there's a distance between them of 500 years between each of the heavens.
Yeah, I know you said all this.
Yeah, so,
okay.
So from your perspective, where are the heavens?
But they're also below, right? I mean, they're beneath us. They're all around.
Sure. So this is
when I look at a star. I'm actually trying to observe Mars at the moment. It's in opposition, so very good views of Mars. My problem is Mars is pretty close to the horizon, so all that atmospheric rubbish is interfering with my telescope, and I can't get a good image. Right? It's not above us; it's right on the horizon. So it's not that everything appears above us. That's not the case. And also, it's not the case. I mean, I don't think you've addressed this issue. If the 7 heavens are not as Aristotle described and as these ancient models describe, and you're saying that the whole universe is one heaven,
within the first heaven,
then how can it be that you would see that there are 7 heavens? Because if it's the case that it is like the Aristotelian model, I'm not saying it's the same as Aristotle. As I say, there are variations on these models, but what they all have in common is that they have these layers, one above another, right? If it's describing that, then it makes sense to say, do you not see there are 7 heavens? But if it's the case that the whole observable universe is the lower heaven, then that verse no longer makes sense, does it? Because you wouldn't see 7 heavens. You only see 7 heavens if you were talking about the planet. So then you are seeing 7 heavens.
But the thing, I don't take the sea in the sense that you're taking it. I take it as rhetoric. We're going to ask you to look at the universe, essentially. Look around. We see lots of statements like this. Even description of some things that we can't see with our naked eye. Do you not see so and so? Now, it's not, have you not seen the heavens and earth in one unit, and we're talking about something
It says, do you not see a couple of times, I think, right? When it says that, isn't it kind of inviting you to look at what you can look at?
Exactly.
Isn't it parrot? Isn't it so apparent to you that X, Y, and Z?
Sure. So
It's not
you
just
can.
saying, otherwise you wouldn't need to say.
Sure. So you have to take seeing, and you have to understand what it means. So.
But it's not like you have some other sense of these 7 heavens. Well, I understand that seeing doesn't literally mean seeing with your eye. I appreciate that point. It's a valid point. But it's irrelevant to this case because it's not like you have some other way of detecting these 7 heavens. You don't, right? You have no other sense of detecting them.
I would say
so it only makes sense if it is visual seeing. Otherwise the passage doesn't make sense.
Well, even if it's not, the point I'm just trying to make is it's inviting you to do something that you can do. So if everything is in the first universe, then I guess we can't do we can't see the other sets, right?
Well, not to the people that this book was written to.
Well, no,
right?
it's
but
written
it
to
would.
us all.
Okay.
And in turn, forward in time as well.
Okay. But let's put it this
What
way.
you're saying is that there's never going to be a point when we could somehow assess beyond.
If you think, yeah, right. If you think
that's
the lowest heaven is the observable universe, what we can observe, then by definition we can't observe the other one, right? By definition, that must be true, right?
But we're not talking about. We're talking about. You're limiting our ability to sort of look further to our current level and saying this is going to be it. And I don't think that's
I'm not saying we couldn't in the future find some way of detecting some other universe, right? But this verse makes a lot of sense if they're talking about the 7 heavens that everyone can see with their eyes, right? It doesn't make any sense if you're talking about some other unobservable structure.
The problem is that it's still not the Aristotelian model because actually we have a different understanding of where.
But okay, my argument is not that it is identical to the Aristotelian model. As I said, there are variations on what Aristotle said because these things were passed to people via word of mouth. Of course, there's variations. So I'm not saying it's identical to the Aristotelian model. What I am saying is it was inspired. It was most likely inspired by the Aristotelian model and therefore ill-informed, right? They're copying a mistake that we now know, that no one at the time knew was wrong. Everybody in those days thought that's what the universe looked like.
Maybe I've lost. Where is the error?
The error is that one, there are more than 5 planets, so it doesn't make sense to talk about 7 heavens. And they're not above each other. When you go into outer space to where the planets are, it makes no sense to say that they are above another.
You've conflated 2 different things. It's not talking about planets. It hasn't mentioned.
No, I know the model that everyone believed in at the time is talking about planets. So you have to understand the history of astronomy. They saw 5 stars that were moving differently. They called those stars the wanderers, or in Greek, the planets. Right? So when they said the word planet, they didn't mean, well, we have this visual idea in our head of what a planet looks like. They had no conception of that. They just saw they were stars moving differently. So they thought they had this model then that they existed in these celestial spheres with the Earth at the middle, right? And these spheres were above one another, okay? And that was how they viewed the heavens, the cosmos, right? And you agreed at the beginning of this conversation that model was wrong, right? Okay, so now we have to ask ourselves, is it likely that this passage comes from those ideas? I'm not saying that specific version of a model because there were variations.
So it doesn't talk about planets. The model that the Quran describes doesn't talk about planets, and it says that everything is in order in the first heaven. So I would
But the
say
Quran doesn't say that.
in 37:6 it says all the stars are in the lowest heaven.
Okay, it doesn't say everything is in the lowest heaven, does it? Because the planets stars could be in the lowest one, and the planets could be one above the other,
So
right?
that thing is
So that's not saying that.
So you have to find something that says that the planets are in the other heaven.
No, what I'm saying is, it's reasonable to believe that's what they thought, because that's what everyone thought at the
No,
time.
you can't.
You're claiming that it's copy or it's wrong, whether it's a copy or not.
It's sort of both, but you have to understand, when I say copy, I don't mean exact copy.
Okay.
Right? I
Means
don't mean they had like a
taken from.
textbook,
Yeah.
but this was knowledge around at the time. This was the common view of the cosmos at the time. And this view was persistent at least until about the 16th century. Okay?
But this
right?
is European.
Right. Not just European. This is Babylonians, this is the Greeks, this was all around the world. Okay? This was the common. Why was it a common view? Very simple. Because when you look up, you see 5 stars moving differently, and you see the sun and the moon, and then all the other stars move in one way. So there are 7 objects that move differently. So that's what they thought there were 7 heavens. Okay? Right? And we know
each for
better.
the different
Right? So I'm
planets.
not saying they had a textbook from Aristotle when they copied it. It was an idea around at the time, and this passage was informed by that idea, and that idea we now know is wrong.
So somehow, no, well actually the idea within this is not wrong. So somehow the person that, if we take the idea that the information was borrowed, somehow,
Yeah.
but somehow they were able to tweak the theory, the understanding, so that the idea of putting the planets in the layers and the stars above that was done away with.
Was it done away with where?
It says that all
So,
the
sorry,
stars
what
are-
verse are we talking where that's done away with?
37:6.
37.
So everything is in the, all the stars are in the lowest heaven.
Yeah, but it doesn't talk about the planets, does it?
So then why are you saying that the planets are in the levels above it?
Because that's what everyone believed.
No, but that's
That was the common view at the time.
but that's-
So if you're going to repeat something, wouldn't it make sense to say, but the planets are not, in these layers, right? You could correct. It would be amazing if the Quran actually corrected the error that everyone believed. That would be pretty awesome. But it didn't. No. Where is the correction?
Where is
You're
the
saying, well, let's have a look. You're saying 37 what?
37:6? Does
It
it repeat?
repeats it.
Does it repeat the error?
I think it repeats the error of 7 heavens and one above the other. Both of those are erroneous. Okay? I agree it doesn't talk about planets, right? But it doesn't need to, right? It's clearly repeating a view of the cosmos. I mean, you've got to believe that by sheer coincidence, the real structure of this great reality that beyond even our observable universe matches an incorrect model of the universe.
This is the whole point.
I mean,
The model
what a coincidence.
the model that you're bringing from Aristotle doesn't match. That's the problem.
When they both say 7 heavens, agreed?
So all they say that looks similar is 7 heavens. Everything else is really conjecture.
Okay, 37, is it this one? We adored the lower sky with the adornment of stars, right? But it doesn't say all the planets are in the lower stars, does it?
So, but in your theory, the Aristotle theory, that you're saying that this is an understanding from, where are the stars?
They're not really in the 7 heavens, they're in the firmament. But it depends, because some people believe in the firmament, some people didn't believe in the firmament. So different models, different views, right?
The theory is not the same.
No, but you're missing the point. The 7 heavens, right, is the same.
But that's not the
Right?
theory.
No, but you're missing the point. You're assuming that it's like a specific model that is being copied. And I'm not claiming that. What I'm claiming... Okay, well, I'm going to be out of time. Right?
Phil, what
Okay.
we can do,
Yeah, go
we can
ahead.
talk about this further if you like. Sure. But you said some other things about the problem of suffering, etc.
Yes.
You think are other things. I think maybe we should talk about those things as well.
That's fine. That's fine.
Look into this a bit further. I don't
Yes.
think they're the same theories, but we can agree to disagree. That's okay. And then we'll take things from there. Is that all right?
That's
Nice to
fine.
speak to you today.
Well, it's great. It's been a really interesting chat. Thank
I
you.
just
Thank
got
you.
here. That's not fair.
Sorry, I have to go.
Ended it.
I have to go.
All I heard was
Sorry.
nice speaking to you.
Sorry, we've been here for hours.
Your discussions are always really interesting.
Thank you.
And so,
Thank you.
so I thought, it'd be lovely to hear them. The two proper intellectuals.
Well, you've got to get here earlier.
Intellectuals speaking,
Why don't we? I think would be interesting. I don't know if you have like are you part of like this organisation or what?
So there's a couple of us that come together. We're not
Not
really
really a formal
It's
thing.
very informal.
I mean, I think
just have to live in the same
I like this idea for a debate because Bill Craig has done it recently, and I did it with someone else in America. And it's a new format for a debate, if you like. And the idea is that you swap your statements in advance. So you do like a formal debate, 20 minutes, but you swap your statements like with 2 weeks. So everyone gets a chance to look into the claims, see, check sources. I think it's a really good
open way of doing it.
You're right there,
Sorry, I was just taking my shoes
He's
off.
not been drinking. He's
I love been drinking. I just there's all these tripods behind me.
tripping.
Right. So I really like this idea for a debate. So, and I think you would be. It's all right. You don't need to. Go from cup. It's a way of debating. What do you think?
It sounds good.
Yeah.
The thing with me is the time.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea when you
It's something that we're looking into.
So if you've got your number, can we swap numbers?
What did it take you?
Okay, sure, give me your email. And what I'll do is
So you like mixing it up with a different colour socks?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But they're the same design. Yeah.
That's a nice way of doing it, isn't it? Yeah. Shorts, but you can just zip them on and make it travel. How'd you get the jumper on?
Where's the axe? Oh, there's a one there. Can you get rid of that?
You press the one instead of the axe.
There we go. Brilliant. Thank you.
I'm going to have to watch this one on YouTube now.
There you go.
Perfect. Okay. I'll send you an email now. We'll take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hurry. I'm kind of busy the next couple of years anyway. There's no hurry.
Winter's
I
coming
think at
up.
some point it would be a good
Do
thing
you
to
teach
do.
or you...
I'm not like I produce films and science, so I spend a lot of time with it. I'm not a scientist myself. Right? But obviously, because I make these films, then and I spend a lot of time with these guys, then I require them.
Content over everything. From your
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
What do you think about this beef thing that's been going on tonight with the police escorting? This is twice in a row. With the ratch thing as well.
Yeah.
Like the ratch. What happened last week with Tan, right? And the way everybody surrounded and crowded.
Rod set that out because
And
Rod's
then
been saying on his shows, no one's chasing me out, no one's, and then he get chased out.
Okay, but I'm thinking we need to behave ourselves, man, because
100.
that shit
I've been saying
there
that.
is going to give them. Look how they're talking about carnival.
Yeah,
They're
they
talking
wanted